resistance, which Jen and I have talked about before. It's interesting how our talks and some of the focus of the service line up frequently. So we see God in that. So what I wanted to focus on was intuition, listening to the intuition and where that leads you. And then also the ego's curriculum and listening to that. So they're two different things, and learning the difference, the flavor of each is essential for learning, for progression on the spiritual path. Now, I'm not trying to get confused between intuition and grace. Grace is different, and I'll give an example of grace. So when I was 18 years old, I was at two parties on two occasions. I think I've told this story. And when I was at those parties, I asked some of the people there for a ride home, and they were going to give me a ride home. And I wanted them to take me straight home. It was real clear to me, like, take me straight home. I don't know why. I was drinking at the time. There's a lot of other things going on. But they wanted to go drive around for a little bit with friends first. And I was adamant, take me home. And they took me home first. And then on both those occasions, the driver went out and drove around in the woods in the rural area of Oil City and got in an accident, and someone died on two occasions. I would say that is more grace, like the grace of God influenced that. So we have these occurrences happening. I don't think that was necessarily intuition, because I wasn't even conscious of intuition. In fact, when that happened, I had no association that there was any God happening to save my life at all. Those events occurred. So you would think, well, how could he not see? I didn't. Completely blind to it all. Intuition. And where the path's going to lead. More of an example of that. These are more clear, more extreme examples. So I was about to go into nursing school, and I met with the director. This is 16, 17 years ago. And at the time, I had just finished probation, and it was just finished that up. And so I had some criminal things that I had exposed to them, be transparent about that. And they said, well, we'll let you into the university, and we'll give you you could get the degree. But when you sit for the boards, the nursing boards in Pennsylvania may not approve you. So you're going to take that risk. And I just went within, and I was like, nah, it's not going to be an issue. We're going to move forward with this. I'm fine. It just felt real clear to me that this is going to work out. So that's the part I want to capture. It's like that part that's, we're listening to that intuition on a daily basis when the world is saying one thing and our heart is saying another, noticing those differences and following that connection you have, that inner teacher, through the activities of your daily life. Now, I'm not saying we're going to be perfect at this. These contemplative practices that I talk about help us with that, connecting with that. And when it shows up for us, we know what it's like, what that voice represents. To me, it's peace. It's joy. It's love. It doesn't even really have form. It's like a subtle, calling to do this. It's what brought me to this church to start speaking. It's what brought me to starting a Course in Miracles group at the YMCA. It's that calling that we need to follow through, even if the outside circumstances of the world doesn't make sense with it, doesn't align with it. It's like we're still listening to that. So it's not really faith, or it's not listening to intuition if we have everything set up and everything's under control and we have all our cards lined up right, our T's crossed, I's dotted, and then we follow. No, that's not trusting in spirit. That's being your own teacher. That's following the ego's path. The ego's path is like when you got everything lined up, you set up a plan, you know exactly what's going to happen. All the players and actors are in their place. You've created an Excel spreadsheet. You've contacted 20 different people on the phone. Everyone knows their role. That's fine. And that may be part of the curriculum, but if you set that up and that was something that you need to happen for your agenda, then you can, and it's not really peaceful and it gets stressful at times, and you need people to behave in a certain way, you'll start to recognize that flavor. and that you can start to say, no, that's me being my own teacher. And you get burned out. And some movements start from a calling, from an inner intuition, and then turn into an ego agenda. A movement will start that way. And that's okay. But it's vital that we recognize what the difference is between the voice for spirit and the ego's voice. That's the essential parts of this. And that's why it's so important to do mindfulness, meditation, stop in prayer, connect, go within and listen to that. What's that feel like to me? Like right now, there's this sense of this field of peace, and just following what that's saying right now. I have not set up this entire talk. I'm listening for the next thought to come. And I trust in that to lead me in a direction. And I don't even necessarily know what direction that's going to go. I just follow it. And this is something we got to explore. I'm sure that people that are doing music and things like that are exploring that. Writers, artists, they're exploring that. They haven't set up everything. They got to feel. It's a very heartfelt experience. And that's how we need to wake up. And it's, in my mind, the only way. Eventually, and you can have ego curriculums that eventually lead to that, like structured, like if you go to a monastery, you're going to have a schedule. You're going to get up in the morning at 5 a.m., do your mindfulness, your prayer. The schedule is going to be there. So that's the curriculum you're going to follow all day. And that might keep you aligned and bring you down. But eventually, you need to go within and listen. It's like Alcoholics Anonymous. You're going to go to meetings for a while to start to get sober. And you're going to rely on them for help for a while. But eventually, you got to go within for help because the meetings aren't always there. And another part of this that can be difficult is that we want things to be a certain way. We want our curriculum to go in a specific direction. And we've assigned it that way. And if it doesn't go that way, we get upset. We get angry. And there's opportunities to practice this. One of the greatest lessons I've learned is through my daughter, like in raising her. When she was really young, she would bite and she'd throw these temper tantrums in the middle of the parking lot, like at Wegmans. And I would get upset. I would get angry at that. After many of them happened, it wasn't even about her. I just was just tired of dealing with it. And I realized that was just meaningless. It wasn't helpful. So since then, I was just reflecting on this the other day. I really have not got angry or upset with her. I felt that way, but I've not outwardly done that in a long time because I made it a practice. So I am firm and I am clear with her, but I stay centered as I'm talking. I'm not this way with everyone. This is someone that I've really practiced with her and raising her. So the agenda of the ego is to try to control the situation and get upset. It wants to use these defects of character, like anger and being upset, to control the environment. That's one of the ways that it justifies anger. If people aren't behaving in a certain way or they aren't following certain measures, sometimes they're health measures. They're not checking their sugars, they're not taking their medicine, they're acting out in society, they're causing problems, they're hurting people, then we feel justified to be upset and angry. Okay, that's a part of the ego's curriculum. All right, so there's probably in every one of us some of that going on that we feel justified in getting upset. And if we're not, I guess the Course would say, if we're not, Course in Miracles, Jesus teaching, if we're not peaceful all the time, then we have some ego agenda. That's the way. If we're consistently at peace and we've entered nirvana, which I do believe is obtainable, then yeah, we don't have the ego agenda. We're just listening to intuition. We're just following that in the flow. But if we're not, we have some of that. So some of the mindfulness contemplation is, Spirit, show me my ego agenda here. Where am I wanting to follow my own path and not yours? And help direct me to follow yours instead. That prayer there. I resign as my own teacher. And how do I tell if I'm following yours or your path, Spirit, or mine, by anger, by fear. If I'm feeling scared, or if I'm feeling stressed, if I'm feeling really anxious, those are signs that I'm following the ego agenda. Because God's path is all loving, all peaceful. And those are the barometers. That's how you tell. But it can be confusing, honestly. It can be confusing because the ego, the mind, has these endorphins, or the feeling of being right and having everything under control, can be a disguise or a smoke for peace. Yeah. Or feeling pleasures. Like because I obtained something, like a sense of pride. Like I just got a reward at my work, or I was just applauded for giving a good talk. Or playing music or whatever like that. And it's the sense that it's not really peace. It's a smokescreen for peace, an illusion, but it's justified. And that's why it stays there. So you don't really feel the real peace. So the ego has got an agenda the whole time. It's got a curriculum. And how do we get out of it? I'm going to read a part of this. This is from the Course Miracles, chapter 12, the Holy Spirit's curriculum. I'm just going to read a couple parts of it. This is Jesus talking. He says, I have said that the ego's rule is seek and do not find. Translated into curricular terms, this means try to learn, but do not succeed. The result of this curriculum goal is obvious. Every legitimate teaching aid, every real instruction, and every sensible guide to learning will be misinterpreted, since they are all for facilitating the learning this strange curriculum is against. If you're trying to learn how not to learn, and the aim of your teaching is to defeat itself, what can you expect but confusion? So this is where it gets into play. Like I have a good idea and I feel right about it and I start following it. And at first it starts to work out, but then eventually things start to fall apart. I get stressed. I get angry. I'm confused. Where was I at on it? And I start to think, I start to question my agenda. And so I turn within and I ask Spirit for help. And Spirit's saying, well, see the good in this. See the helpfulness in this. See how this can teach you something. If you keep on trying to push your agenda on it, it's not going to work. And you get confused. So you got to step back. Maybe you step back from the whole situation and you reevaluate your original goal entirely. What was it really for? What did you want to accomplish from it? Did you really want joy and peace and love for everyone at the beginning? Or did you want some people to win and others to lose? That's another sign. So I'm giving signs here. Peace, love, joy. Everyone wins. Another sign, we're following Spirit's curriculum. Everyone's going to win. There's no losers. Even the person that we think committed horrific acts, they win because they get to go home with God too. Everyone is a part of the return. It's the only way. So you have tried to learn what you do not want should take heart. You who have tried to learn what you do not want should take heart. For although the curriculum you set yourself is depressing indeed, it is merely ridiculous if you look at it. So I'm sure we've looked at our curriculums. I have. I've stepped back and I've laughed at them. Like, this is ridiculous. What am I doing here? I'm stressed out. I've set up way too much for myself right now. I'm overwhelmed. This is a part of my story. Maybe I need to let some of this go. I need to say no to a few things here. I need to say yes to this moment with Spirit and just take a time off, maybe a sabbatical from it all. Oh, and if the depressing feeling comes over you, it is possible that the way to achieve a goal is not to attain it. Yeah. Resign now as your own teacher. This resignation will not lead to depression. It is merely the result of an honest appraisal of what you have taught yourself and of the learning outcomes that have resulted. Under the proper learning conditions, which you can neither provide nor understand, you will become an excellent learner and an excellent teacher. But it is not so yet, and will not be so until the whole learning situation, as you have set it up, is reversed. So this is what we're going through. We're going through a reversal. This whole world is upside down. Just totally based on getting, based on fear, based on getting upset, based on disease, based on separation. Upside down, so you're flipping it all and going to a vertical way. So your happiness is here, not outward. It's vertical. I am. And that's the reversal. So when you're lined up with that, that's how you know. And you feel peace and you want everyone else to win, you know you're following spirit's curriculum. And it even gets deeper into that here. It says your learning potential, properly understood, is limitless because it will lead you to God. You can teach the way to him and learn it if you follow the teacher who knows the way to him and understands his curriculum for learning. The curriculum is totally unambiguous because the goal is not divided and the means and the end are in complete accord. You need only offer your undivided attention. Everything else will be given you. For you really want to learn aright, and nothing can oppose the decision of God's Son. His learning is as unlimited as he is. And I can give example after example after example of my life of following that, and everything just ends up working out. Even on the external. So you got to let go of the external and what's going on out there and just go within and be in the contemplation place and listening to your heart, no matter what, following that. But at the same time, this is a tough balance. You don't attack anyone. So the person that's saying that you need to do this, and you go within and say, no, I don't, you're not there to judge them or say anything about them. You let them be as they are. And this goes along with what Jen was saying about non-resistance in the reading. This is why Gandhi's path, Martin Luther King's path, they worked because they were following a certain process, curriculum to bring peace, but they weren't resisting others in it. So they essentially didn't even fight back. They just stayed centered, defenseless. In my defenseless, my safety lies. Teachings in the course. So you stay there and you include everything. So if someone does start to attack, you're there is to see the God in them. And that's the difference between us as children of God in the world. We're there as an alternative, turn the other cheek. That's what it really means, is we're to show them the God self within them. That's what turning. You're not going to turn the other cheek and have them smack you. You're really turning the other cheek and showing them the part of you that's God for them. That's what you do. And by non-resistance. Beautiful. One of the most powerful teachings. And being grateful that that's another part of it, being grateful that that's been shown to you and that you can live that out in your daily life. And you got to explore it. And it's everyone's journey, individualized. My path is not going to be the same as Doug's or Carla's or Jen's. We all have different curriculum, but the content of it is very similar. The same stories, and then the piece behind it all. But how we learn that, very different, very different. And it's awesome to watch how other people learn too. Very awesome. And you find joy in that, meaning watching that. And that's where you find your power. And it's like your calling. You want to help others. You want to watch them grow. I was on a call the other day at work, and they asked, well, what do you enjoy so much about your work? And I said, well, watching others transform. And that's what I enjoy the most. All the other stuff is, if I wasn't able to see that, I don't care how much money you give me. It's not really, it's going to end up being empty and boring, depressing, like it said. Yeah. That's all I got. Thank you, guys.